Okay, so today is lesson 3 of Intro to Web Programming. And we've got a link up on our class whiteboard. We'll use this whiteboard for some different activities, just asking people to post how they're doing this morning. So I'll leave that link up. You can get there from here. So what are we doing today? We're going to go over our database connection. We're also going to migrate our database over to AWS now that the server is online and everybody should have their account. If you don't have AWS access for today, you can continue to use your local database, but you are going to need AWS access for your first lab, which I'll go over at the end of class. We're going to review saving data using a new table. We're going to create a genres table in our database and build another form and save. And then once we've got some data in those two databases, the focus for the rest of our class is going to be how do we retrieve data? So once we get data in the database, how do we pull it out and what are some of the different ways we can display it in a PHP page? And we're going to use some different HTML structures for formatting a list of data. We're going to use a table structure, and we're also going to look at filling a drop-down list from a database query, really common task for a web developer. We'll also, if we've got time, we'll implement Bootstrap for CSS, and then I'll go over lab 1. So I know people are tired. I feel you. I had a terrible night's sleep. I'm tired too, but we'll just power through and do the best we can. So first thing I want to do is let's try and get connected to our database on AWS. So you should have gotten an email with the credentials. Now, in order to connect to our database on AWS, we have to first connect to a VPN. So the database is not open publicly. You need to have the student VPN connection. And the software for this. So where do you get these things? You probably have them already, but if you don't, I got several emails over the last few days saying, like, how do I connect to the VPN? How do I connect to the web server? The instructions for all these things are on Blackboard. So before emailing me, you want to check the links, tools, and resources. So you need two things for the Openvpn. The first is our student.openvpn file. Now, if you used AWS last semester, you don't need to download this. It's the same file from last semester. It has not been changed. So I'm assuming most of you have Openvpn and the connection already. But if for some reason you don't, you have a new computer, you can download the Openvpn client from here. And then here is the student connection file that you'll need. So I know that most of you have this stuff already. If you're a Mac user, instead of Openvpn, there's an alternative piece of software called TunnelBlick that you can download from here and use. So I'm going to use this Openvpn software and this connection now. Yeah, okay, it does. Thanks, Shashank. I know in the past some Mac users have used TunnelBlick instead, but thank you. So I want to get connected to it, and then we're going to try to connect to our database using Mysql Workbench. So I'm just going to search for Openvpn. And then you should already have your student connection here from last semester. So all you need to do is click on it, and it connects pretty much right away. And then I can just minimize this client. I'm going to leave this running all class because we're going to be connected and working with the AWS server. So I'm going to close that. And then what we want to do is set up our connection to the MySQL database that's running on AWS. And the instructions for this are also here on Blackboard. So I'm going to use Mysql Workbench for this. I'm going to open up Workbench, search for Workbench and open it up. And I'm going to create a connection in here so that it will be saved permanently. I'll have to enter the credentials to my AWS account in here, and then every time I come back here, I can just click on it and it will open. So step one, on the home screen, on the splash screen beside MySQL connection, I'm just going to click the plus sign. I'm going to give it a name of AWS. That's just a friendly name. The host name, and again, all these instructions are here on Blackboard. The host name is here, 172.31.22.43. So this is the IP address, the local IP address of our AWS server. So I'm just going to paste that into the host name. So far your screen, your connections, set up new connection screen, it should look exactly like mine. We'll all call our connection AWS, and we all have the same IP address as the host name. Your username will be in the email that you should have received last week from support@Computer Studies. So I'm going to put in my username. And then to store our password, we've got this button here that says Store in Vault. I'm going to click that. I'm going to go and grab my password that was sent to me and paste it in and click OK. And then I can click OK, and this will save this connection. So I'm not going to have to do this process again. I only have to do this one time. And now you can see I've got a new connection here in my list of available database connections. So this is my local server. This is my own web server that I use with a hosting company that I work with. And now here's my AWS connection. So to connect to my database, all I have to do is now click it. And if my credentials are correct, it should take me to the query screen. So again, all these instructions step by step are here under useful links, tools, and resources, instructions on how to connect to your MySQL database. Maybe you could just give me a quick thumbs up when you are connected into your database. Thanks, Tyler. Yes, the password, thanks, Karen. The password is in the email you would have received. And you need to put it in, you need to click that Store in Vault button beside password and paste it in. Absolutely, you need a password. So the first thing to check if you're getting an error is to make sure that you've entered the credentials properly. Okay, if something's wrong, I need more information. Yes, it would have been sent to you last week to your Georgian College email. And the email, I believe, would have been from, I'll put the address in the chat, support@computerstud.es. Or, yeah, sorry, thank you, Sarah, from CS Tech. That's our computer studies technician, cstech@georgiancollege.ca. So I provided them with our class list with everyone's email, and I requested accounts for everyone. And they've got an automated script that when it sets your account up, it sends you an email with your credentials. So check for an email from cstech@georgiancollege.ca. You can also check your junk folder. Okay, so if you registered, okay, you registered late, so you didn't get an email. Okay, in that case, you need to email support@computerstudies. I'm putting it in the chat again. You need to email them, tell them you are in my class, and you need an AWS account, please. So if you don't have an AWS account for today, it's fine. You can continue to work on your local server for today if you need to. Yes, should I change the username? Yes, you need to use the username in the email. Root is only the default username when we install it locally. You will have been assigned a username and password on AWS in the email you received. Please enter a proper name. Yes, so at the top, I'll just disconnect. The connection name we called AWS. So call it AWS. You can't leave this blank. You have to give it a name to distinguish it from the other connections you have. So call it AWS. The host is 172.31.22.43. The username and password will be in the email you got from CS Tech. So I've saved this connection permanently now. So if I close Workbench and come back, I won't have to go through that same process. I can just open it up, and now my connection is saved. So now if I want to open it, I just click on it one time, and I'm connected. So this setup where we're putting in our username and password, we only have to do this one time. And now those credentials are saved in Workbench for us. So over here on the left, you'll have your database name. I will have a bunch of tables in my database because my account is not new like yours. So if you expand yours, you're not going to see any tables, whereas I have lots of tables. Probably many of which I will wind up deleting. Now your database name and your username, they should be the same. I believe the script we have running when we create the accounts. So my username is Rich100. My database name is also Rich100. So whatever format your username is for login, your database will be the same. So before I can do anything in my database, I need to run this command, use, and then the name of my database, which for me is Rich100. You will put in use and then your database name. So if you cannot connect to AWS right now, then I'm going to suggest just continue to use your local database for today, like we did in class last week. And perhaps I can help you offline later. Or you can book an appointment for office hours for later in the week. Okay, I'll help as many people as I can, but obviously there's 28 of you in the room, there's only one of me. So if you can't get connected to AWS, just use your local database like we did in last week's class. So run the use command, and then to execute it, you just click the lightning bolt. It runs the command. I get a little green check mark here. So now we are connected to we can start manipulating our database. Now, last week we created a movies table in our local database. I'm going to recreate it on the AWS database in a little bit, but not quite yet. We're actually going to make another table first. How do you get rid of the SQL additions? I think under View and Panels, you can toggle some of the sidebars. I think that does it. So we're going to create another table first. Last week we had a movies table. This week we want to create a genres table first, and then we'll recreate the movies table after. But the movies table is going to look slightly different. We'll see why in a minute. So let's jump back. Let's go into our lesson 3 folder here. So I've got this simple script here. It's this item, lesson 3 SQL script 1. We're going to create a very simple table called genres that has 2 fields in it. An auto-generated field called genre ID, and then a name. And we're going to use this table so that we can categorize our movies in the database. So I'm going to copy that script from Blackboard. I'm going to go back to Workbench, and I will just paste it in here. Now, I don't need to run my used command again. I only need to run it one time. So I'm just going to highlight my new statement. Again, I've just copied and pasted this from Blackboard. I haven't changed it. And I'm just going to click the execute. It says execute selected portion of the script, or everything if there's no selection. So I'm just going to select and execute my create table script. So I'll run it. I get a little green check mark. And now I've got a genres table here with the genre ID and name column. So what we're going to do next is we're going to add some code to our web application so that we can have a simple form where we can create and save a genre. Daniel, when you say you don't have that folder, what do you mean? I'm not sure what you mean by folder. Oh, it doesn't show up right away. Once you run the script, there's a little refresh button here. See beside schemas, there's a little refresh button. Yeah, you've got to click the refresh here, and then it should show up. Yeah, just make sure you click refresh. Can you use lowercase syntax? Yes, you can. If you want to use lowercase, you can, but it's just preference. So you can write the SQL keywords in lowercase if you like. I always prefer to put them in uppercase, so I'm separating the keywords from the things that I am naming myself, but it's not required. So now I'm going to let's go to our code editor. Yes, there is. So the list of fields, the whole list of columns, notice is enclosed in every create table statement. The whole list is enclosed in round brackets. We're actually going to recreate the movies table later. I've already put that script on Blackboard as well. And same thing, right? Here's the list of fields. They are all enclosed in one set of round brackets. Spencer, if you have an X, then you probably didn't have the semicolon here, right? So without that semicolon terminating the use command, it doesn't recognize that this is a separate command. So that X suggests you are missing the semicolon there, right? As soon as I put it away, put it in. So Workbench is good because it helps us debug our SQL syntax, right? When we make those kinds of errors, it'll tell us. If I do something like I leave out a bracket here, right? It tells me. So let's open up our code editors now. So I'm using Visual Studio Code. Some of you are using Phpstorm. Let's see, where are we? our PHP flicks. Now, I got an email from somebody over the weekend saying I wanted to use Phpstorm, but I couldn't because it's not free. I did talk about this in class last week, but I will show you if you are using Phpstorm. Yes, it is free, but you have to do something in order to get it for free, which I will show you because I know there are some Phpstorm users in the class. So it says free 30-day trial. It is a free 30-day trial, but once you download the software, if you go to the account section and you register, you sign up with a student email and click the confirmation, they then extend your trial from 30 days to 365 days. So once you've registered as a student, if you go into Phpstorm, again, if you're not using Phpstorm, you can ignore this. In the help menu, there's a register link. And now mine's already active. You just click activate new license, and then you'll have the option to sign in with your JetBrains username and password. And once you do that, they change your 30-day trial to a 365-day trial, and you can renew it every 365 days. So for those of you who prefer using Phpstorm, that's how you can do it, and you are not limited by that 30-day trial. Okay, so here's our code from last week. So we're going to go and make a new file, which I will call genre details.php. Masa, they're pretty much the same. It's really just your preference. I suggest, yeah, and it's even available beyond this course if you want to keep doing PHP work. I suggest try them both and see which one you prefer. I've used Phpstorm for years. Decided to use Visual Studio Code this semester just because for those of you in the web program who had Scott for your HTML fundamentals class, you probably used Visual Studio Code last term. You're probably using Visual Studio Code in your client-side JavaScript course this term. So it was just one less program you had to install and learn. But if you want to experiment with Phpstorm, then you could do that and see which one you like better. So we're going to create a simple form now so that we can start saving genres to the database. If I look right now, if I run this query, select star from genres, I'll just highlight this one line. It's not going to return anything. Right? There's nothing in, we have a table here called genres, but there's no data in it yet. What folder did I open? I opened the PHP Flicks folder. So our web project lives here. It's in your C, XAMPP, htdocs. It's this folder here, the PHP Flicks folder. So you can even open it right from here. You could just choose open with code if you want to. We're going to use this same folder every class, right? Because we're building one project and we're just going to keep extending that project each week. So it will always be this project. Now, to save us a bit of time, I've actually put all the HTML we need for the genre details page here on Blackboard. So you can just, again, grab it, copy it. It's almost identical, just a simpler version of the movie details form from last week. So you can just copy this from Blackboard. Again, we're in the lesson 3 folder. So here was the SQL script we copied. Here's the genre form. Boom, just paste it in. So it's a really simple form. Like last week, we've got method of post. Our action is going to be save genre. which we'll build next. And we had a field set with a label and a text box and a button. So just copy and paste it. You don't have to make, shouldn't have to make any changes to this page. Let's open it up in the browser and we can see our very simple page now. So I will go to localhost /phpflix/genre details. And why did I get this? How come it says connection error, error connecting to localhost? What have we not done? We're connected to the AWS, yes. Thank you, Tyler. I have not started my local web server, right? So my local host, this also should be HTTP, but it's offline. So I will just go to XAMPP, which I pinned to my start menu. And I'm going to make sure I start the Apache server. I don't need the local MySQL server, so I'm not going to use it because we're going to use the AWS database. Yep, Owen, you had it right. So Belinda, you probably had your Apache server running already, which is fine. Oops, I need to take out the... Oh, probably help if I save my file. That helps too. So here's our file, simple form. So I put something in, I post my form, it posts to save genre, where we get a 404 not found error because we haven't built this page yet. So we're going to build this page together to review what we need to do to save. I'll just close up some files we don't really need open. So our next step is now to build this page. And so we haven't actually written any code. All we've done is copy the file from Blackboard and start our local web server running. So we're going to build save genre and get it working so we can use this little form to populate the genres table with different kinds of movies. So I'm going to go and make a new file, which will be called save genre.php. And I'll put up just our regular HTML template. If you want, you can copy and paste this from one of your other files. So we're basically going to repeat the process we used on our save movie page last week. So there's our basic HTML. So we'll go and pop over to our save movie page for a minute. We'll do a quick review of what were the things we needed to do in order to save form data to the database like we did last week. So we'll come back here in just a second. So on save movie, we grab the form inputs. We're only going to have our genre form is going to be simpler because we've only got one. We're going to connect to the database, except this time we're going to connect to our AWS database instead. We're not going to connect locally unless you're one of the few students who doesn't have an AWS account yet. We're going to insert into, instead of the movies table, we're going to insert into the genres table. We're going to prepare our command. We're going to fill the name parameter with our variable, execute the query, disconnect, and show the user a message. So we're going to basically repeat this same process, but we're saving to a different table this time. And instead of saving 3 values, we're only saving 1 value. So inside our body, we know we're going to need a block of PHP code. We need server-side script to process the form, connect to the database, and save. So we will get form input. I'll create a variable called name. So we're going to use the post array like we did last week. It's an array of variables that are passed when a form is posted to the current script. And our form has an input called name. So this is how we read the value of what the user typed in the box. So now we're going to connect. Hamid, we will do that later in the course, and you can do it now, but I'm going to do it later for a couple reasons. Number one, we're going to look at including external files a bit later so that we can break things up. I also want you to get familiar with the syntax of how to connect. So if you just copy and paste it all semester, you'll never actually learn it. And you should know what this connection is. So for a while, I'm going to suggest, you can copy and paste it if you like, but you're really not going to learn it if all you ever do is copy and paste. So yes, we will do it for efficiency. Normally, we don't want the connection in every page, but my answer is we'll do it, but not yet. So again, we're going to make a new PDO object. We're using the MySQL database, but this time our host is the AWS IP, which is 172.3.1.2.2.4.3, and then a semicolon, and then DB name equals, and this is where you have to put in your AWS database name. We then put in our username, and you'll notice my username and my database name, they are the same. And I believe they're the same for all of you as well. And then you need your AWS password. So don't use mine, you need to use your own. So we'll all use the same host, but now everyone's database name, username, and password, they're all going to be different. So our SQL is going to look like this. Insert into genres. We're going to insert into the name column. And I will create a parameter that starts with a colon, also called name. We don't need to insert into the ID column. The database will take care of the ID automatically. And then we use this weird PHP object syntax, take our database connection, and prepare this SQL command. So this is exactly what we did last week. We're just using a different server this time. Okay, if you missed, I will say this generally for the whole class. I don't need to send files to you if you miss class or something is broken. They are all on GitHub. So if you miss something or you need to refer to my files, all you've got to do in weekly learning is go to my GitHub page and click on repositories. And here's our PHPFlix app. So all the work we do in class, it will always be in here. Okay, so if you need to refer to any of these files, you can get them from GitHub. Okay, I'll leave this code up. There's a few other questions in the chat. Yes, Andres, we are later. It is not necessary to generate it in each view. In fact, it's not advisable to generate it in each view. We will move the connection to a separate file later, not today. You don't want to stay connected, however, because that uses up resources. So we should be connecting in each page, but we do have the ability to move this line to a separate file and only invoke it when we need it instead of repeating it. For starters, though, for a few weeks, we are going to repeat this line over and over again because I want you to get used to typing it. That is my AWS password. So you will need to put your password here. So your line will be like this. So the host is the same. This will be your DB name. Username. Your password. Okay, so you will have to substitute in, maybe I'll make these all caps. Okay, so you won't use rich100 and my password. You will, yes, the password will be in your email. Yes, Hamid, that's right. We are going to bind. Can I make code bigger? I could try, Sarah. Yeah. Let's see. Better? So the first part of this string is going to be the same for all of us right up until this part, until we get to the database name and username and password. And those values will come from the email you got from CS Tech. So Hamid, you have the right idea. Now we need to bind the parameter. Insert the form input into the name. So we're going to fill the name parameter with the variable also called name. And we said that it would be up to 100 characters. So last week when we were saving a movie, we had 3 parameters, but this week we've only got 1. And now we want to execute the save operation. So we'll take our command and we just execute it. So this will actually save the new genre into the genres table in our database. And we will disconnect. By setting our connection to null. When we take a break, I will push all this code up to GitHub as well. So if you're a bit behind, I know it happens, you'll be able to reference what's there. And I'll just print out genre saved. So here's all our code. Make sure you're using your credentials, not mine. But we can give this a try. And if it works, we should be able to see a new record in the genres table in MySQL. And we want to populate at least, 3, 4, 5 different genres into the database. And then we can start saving movies and we can connect them together. So when we create a movie, we can also link it to its genre. So I'll save this. I'm now going to go back to my browser and try it. So now if I want to save comedy, I get a message saying that the genre was saved. And if I go to Mysql Workbench, I can run this query, select star from genres, to look in the table and see if anything's actually there. And my browser says it was saved, but did it actually get saved? Well, we don't know yet. So if we run our select query, I now have genre ID of 1 and name is comedy. Okay, I'm going to put in a couple of other ones, and then I know probably people are going to need some debugging help. So I'll put in drama and I don't know. So now when I run my query, I've got 3 genres in the table. Okay. If you're getting an error, there's a line we can add here that will help you debug what the error is. I'm going to add it to mine. So underneath our database connection, this will help some of you that are reporting errors. We can turn on database debugging. With this method of our database connection, if we add set attribute, by default, PDO, it suppresses the errors. So we want to enable the PDO error reporting. By adding this line under our database connection, if you have an issue connecting to the database, this is going to print out like a debug trace in your browser. I'll create an error intentionally so we can see how this works. If you're getting access is denied, mean, if you can connect through Mysql Workbench, you should be able to connect through here. Then just make sure your connection is correct. So if you're getting an error, you want to add line 14. That will give you more details about what's going wrong. So I think what I'll do, there's lots of people. Okay. If you have unexpected variable here, that suggests you are missing the semicolon here. You can't create the variable because these two lines are being parsed as a single line. So make sure you add your semicolon here. That's why you would be getting unexpected variable, because you haven't terminated the previous line. So if yours is broken, you want to see Workbench? Okay. So it's saying column name cannot be null. So that means if you're getting column name cannot be null, I'll try to show both at once here. Just give me a minute. That means most likely that the value, you're missing something either here or in your SQL command. Maybe you're missing the bind param. So that's saying name is a required field in our database, but you are not providing any value to it. Okay, that's a database connection error. Karen, you've got a database connection error. Sometimes it just times out. So give it a couple minutes and try it again. Are you connected through the VPN? And make sure you're connected through the VPN. If your VPN connection is off, you won't be able to connect to the database and you will get that error. Now, I also want you to remember the only way that we can't load the save page directly. We have to post the form. So you can't just go to your save page because the save page needs an input value called name. So you must fill out your form and submit from there. Yours is printing the PHP. Sarah, you might be missing PHP tags. Here's what we'll do. It is 10 to 9. So some people probably have this working, others don't. I'm going to pause the recording here.